So we did about as much as we could as far as restricting permissions on database users and using roles to do that. But we still have some vulnerabilities on our website that we really can't fix without fixing the application. Now, the exact details of doing this are going to vary depending on which database driver you're using and to a certain extent what database you're talking to. But it's going to be pretty much the same no matter what you're working in. It's PHP or Java or C Sharp to talk to the database, and SQL Server, MySQL. It's all going to be this basic idea here. And the main problem that we have in this login. Actually, let me move to safe. It's unsafe login.php. So the basic problem that we have here is that when I type value into the search box, the application is taking this as a piece of text and it's concatenating it with other pieces of text for the query to come up with one big piece of text. And then that whole piece of text is executed as one or more SQL statements when it's sent to the database server. So your database driver is also going to provide a different mechanism for sending queries to the database called prepared statements. And in a prepared statement, instead of gluing the query together, including what the user types into the box, instead we're going to create a SQL statement that has variable in it. So let's actually look at that. I'm going to go to, here's my login DB code from GraphTV. And here's the statement where it's gluing all of my strings together into one big SQL statement and then sending it to the database. What I'm going to do instead is use something called the prepared statement. And actually, let me start by commenting this out. And what I'm going to do is create a variable called statement. Don't worry about the exact syntax. It will depend on what language you're using, but it'll be similar to this. It's going to be database pointer prepare. And then I put a SQL statement, select star from users table, which is users, and I could continue to use my global variable here. So actually I'm just going to hard code this so it's a little clearer for this video, where, and then hash is equal to, here I do have to, now here it's actually safe to glue in hash because hash is created by the application based on the password. So it's going to take the password, it's going to run it through a hash function, it's going to get a hash value back. And so if a user tries to inject SQL commands into the password field, that's just going to affect the value of this hash, but the hash will not allow me to inject a SQL statement. But just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to go ahead and create a parameter called hash. So that's a named parameter called hash, which is basically like a variable. And then, and the user's name field is username equals, and then this value here that's coming from username, $username, that's actually the value that was typed into the search box. And so this is the primary vulnerability for a SQL injection attack. So I'm definitely going to use a parameter for that. I'll call it username. And then semicolon, double quote. So basically what I've done is my query includes two spots where a value can be mapped. And then instead of using dbQuery, what I'm going to do is execute the statement pointer execute. And then I supply values that get bound to these parameters. So there's a hash parameter and a username parameter. I'm going to pass in an array where the first key is hash, and the value of that is $hash. and the second key is username, and the value of that is username. And so what this is going to do is it's going to execute the query, but the query just has the parameters in it. And it's also going to send along the values for hash and username, but those are kept separate from the query, so I can't inject a SQL command there. And then I'm going to get back nothing, but the statement will now have a fetch all method where I can get the results. And then this one is basically the same thing. So instead of this query, what I'm going to do is statement is db prepare select star from users where username equals and then username. So this variant just takes a username without a hash. And then my execute statement is statement pointer execute, and I give it an array with a key username goes to a value username. So that executes the statement with the parameter values bound. And then statement fetch all. And then this last one, this insert. Here the query is a little longer, but let me comment those lines out. And then my statement is db prepare insert into users, and then the fields are username, hash, role. Values are colon username, colon hash, and colon, actually that should have been, yeah, role. So this is actually just passing in the hard-coded value user here. So let's just pass in the hard-coded value user. By default, everybody gets user permission. So there's my statement with parameters. And here I'm going to execute that, passing in username and hash is $hash. And then I don't need to pass in the role, like so. And then this one doesn't actually return any values, so I don't actually need to do anything else after that. So that should be it. Let's go ahead and see if it works. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my login page, and we're going to reload. And first I'm going to try my SQL injection attack that worked before. But now what's going to happen is the application is going to treat this whole piece of text as my username. And since there won't be a user registered with that username, no matter what I supply for password, it's not going to work. And if I hit login, username or password is incorrect. It cannot find an account with this username. This is separate from the query now, so I can't inject it as part of the query. And similarly, if I try to register a new name, if I try to, so this thing has insert permission. So if I try to insert into users values, and then actually what was the whole thing? So let's do secret for paste dash dash, and let's change the account to secret for. So there's my injection, and I'm going to use same thing for the password, same thing for confirm. If I hit register now, it actually registered an account, but the name of the account is actually that whole thing. So that's actually the name of my new account, and here's the password for my new account. And actually, username does not exist, so it didn't even do that much. Let's actually go and look at what's in the database and see what that registration command did. So here's my user reader, select star from users again. And if I go all the way to the bottom, yeah, so here's my new account. And I don't know what it ended up with for the password hash, but I can guarantee this MD5 value is not going to be on the internet anywhere. So let's go ahead and copy that. And I'm going to, let's search for that MD5 value. Yeah, it's definitely not on there.